Welcome to the Michelle Mission, Two Men, One Podcast, every black film ever made. My name is Vincent Williams, and I'm joined as always by my partner.
Hey, what's up? This is Len, aka the Bat Tribble.
And as we continue into the month of June, celebrating Black Music Month, on today's stop, we will be spending time with 2009's biographical pick, Notorious.
Notorious.
About the late, great Notorious B.I.G.
B.I.G.
And joining us on this journey, rounding out the conversation and the critique, very, very special guest, author and journalist, Justin Tinsley.
Justin Tinsley.
That's
author. The remix I haven't heard yet.
Yeah. Hey, let me get all your stuff out. We like to help people's business. The author of the brand new book, It Was All a Dream, Biggie and the World That Made Him. Brand new, hot off the presses, in finer bookstores and outlets everywhere. Justin, thank you so much for joining us. How are you, brother?
Yeah, it is a true honor and privilege to be on here. Thank you for having me on. I'm over here pointing to the wrong side of my camera. Oh, now I'm actually pointing to the right side. But anyways, thank y'all brothers for having me on. I can't wait to have so much fun with y'all on this show. So let's get after it.
All right.
Oh, we're gonna get after
absolutely.
it.
And
most definitely.
How are you, Len? What's going on with you?
Yo, I'm ready to go.
All right.
Ready to go. And shout out to each and every one of you out there who are watching us, and we are streaming live via StreamYard into our Facebook group, onto YouTube, and it's also on Twitch. I see everybody out there in the chat. How you doing? Deborah Battle says, hi, Len, Vincent, and Justin. Ashy Feet is shouting out, yes, we have a guest. Yes, we have a guest. We have a guest, and quite a guest. Justin Tinsley. Vincent just gave off his bona fides. Didn't even mention that, like, he's the senior cultural writer for previously The Undefeated, now Anscape, which is okay. I gotta ask you, Anscape, how did that name come around for the name for The Undefeated, the new name?
Yeah, I mean, like, obviously they told us in advance about how it came to be. And, the story that they broke down for me, it was just, we want the opportunity to describe what our environment, our landscape looks like. And it is never ending. So, like, it's Anscape. So you may think it's this, you may think it's that, you may think it's that the third, and it may be all of those, but it's also and this as well. And this is what the landscape of our palette looks like. But I tell people all the time, because the Undefeated had created such a great cultural cachet for itself that you still have to, like, yo, this is what we are now, but this is what we used to be known as then. We're not exactly Prince and the artist formerly known as, but it did create a little bit of a name for itself. So it's always fair to remind people, like, what it was once called, because everybody needs a reminder every now and then.
Okay.
Definitely. And by any name, I will tell you right now that what y'all do over there is undefeated, man. I really do
appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
Everything y'all do. I check it out all the time, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, let's get into it, Vincent.
Okay.
Justin is here for our review of Notorious, but he is also here to have fun with us. So that's good. So we're going to do it like we do.
Okay.
Any other time. I do not believe, I'm going to give one more check. I do not believe that we received any emails, Vincent, in regards to our review last week. No, we did not. So which means that we can go straight to a moment that I have been waiting to bring to you all day. This is hip hop.
This is hip hop.
This is hip hop all day right here, what we're talking about. And one of the best parts about this movie, Notorious, is that it is hip hop history put to film.
Right.
And some of the first moments of hip hop history being put to film, because this is a true to life story.
Yes.
Which begged the question from me to you and also to Justin, is there, besides what's depicted in this movie, a historical hip hop moment you want to see on film?
Okay. We should probably start with the guests though, right?
We can start with the guest, Justin, who, when I posed this question to him, and I quote, said, he's got a ton of moments in his head. Hit us, Justin.
You know what? There is a moment, and I guess to stay on theme with what the conversation is around this day, it will be Biggie Smalls related, or Biggie Smalls Jason, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Film that this was a part of Biggie's story that wasn't necessarily played out in the film. And I mentioned it in my book, but I would love just a backstory on how this friendship evolved, how it was cut short, but it still managed to evolve over time. I would love the backstory between Biggie Smalls and Jay-Z and how that relationship came. Because a lot of people may not know that Biggie and Jay went to the same high school in New York, in the 80s. So that's where that relationship started. I think Jay was around 2 years older than Big, so they wouldn't necessarily been in the same classes, but you know how it is. You pass each other in the hallways. You're like 2 in the night.
Yes.
So I would have loved to see that. I would love to see like the individual stories of just, their time in the streets and their time, taking trips out of town to, make money by any fashion or any means that they had. And just the great story that DJ Clark Kent always tells about how he introduced them to in the studio together to perform the song Brooklyn's Finest, that of course, appeared on Jay-Z's debut album, Reasonable Doubt. There's more to the story that I could say, but I don't want to take up all the time on the show. So off the top of my head, yes, I would say the Biggie Jay-Z relationship, but there's countless other ideas, which I'm sure Vince is going to pummel me on. So I'll concede the floor to him.
Well, I only have two. I have one that we all saw, and then one that has become part of hip hop lore.
Okay.
The one that we all saw, I would love to see that performance on Arsenio Hall.
Ooh.
With A Tribe Called Quest, Leaders of the New School, when they performed Scenario.
Ooh.
And that moment at the end when Busta Rhymes does his lyrics.
Oh yeah.
And we all watched in real time Busta Rhymes become a star.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like he was the dude in Leaders of the New School. If you were, if you were like a backpacker dude, and I remember debates. Oh, I like Charlie Brown. Oh, I like Busta Rhymes. But then the Scenario was the moment where he became Busta Rhymes.
Busta and the LONS.
Right.
Yeah.
The other moment that I would love to see dramatized is talking about these MCs going to high school together. Old Dirty Bastard and Q-Tip went to the same high school
at the same time.
Apparently at the same time because they battled.
Oh, really?
And ODB, Q-Tip talks about how ODB ate him alive.
Really?
I would love to see that dramatized.
I could see ODB eating up Q-Tip. Not that Q-Tip couldn't get with him, but just because of how
he's just so off kilter.
Yeah.
How do you battle ODB?
Right.
Especially in high school. Especially in high school. It's crazy that you mentioned that, Vincent, because Busta always talks about this battle that he had with Jay-Z in high school. They battled in the lunchroom. And he said Jay-Z got the best of him in that battle, and Busta told himself from that day forward, he was like, I'm never going to lose another battle again.
Right.
So I agree with you on these high school connections. Like there's definitely a fascinating story to be told there.
See, what we're creating in real time here. It's not the movie of all these like guys getting together in high school. meeting up. Jay-Z and Biggie go to high school, Busta and Jay-Z. What we're creating is the animated movie,
right?
Of just fictional hip hop high.
Right. The early years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just see like baby Redman running around and old dirty bastards, the old dirty baby just running around.
Right.
That's what we're creating.
Right.
That's what we're creating.
Yeah. How about you? You got something, Lynn, or you just?
Well, I do. And as far as I know, it hasn't been dramatized on film. There was an opportunity to do it, yet I knew they weren't going to do it. We were speaking before the show, and I know that Justin has fond feelings in regards to the film Straight Outta Compton. But listeners to our early episodes and our review of that film will remember that I do not have fond feelings about that movie. And my primary reason is because I think that, talk about it's all a dream. That movie is all a dream, especially in regards to the life of Dr. Dre. And what I would like to see played out on film is the real story of Dr. Dre, and specifically so people can get a real idea of exactly who he was at that time. I recognize that the man is probably totally different now, 20, 30 years later.
Right.
But who he was at that time, I would like to see in some form actually it being represented on film, what none of us saw. And that was his attack on D. Barnes in Los Angeles. Because that, to me, again, I try and recognize that it's 30 years later. But when you have an opportunity to create Straight Outta Compton and at least show, you're going to butter some things up as well. We always know that you're going to smooth over, massage some shit. But when you got an opportunity to at least be real, try to be at least a little real and present yourself to the American public, and you just dodge everything like that movie does, that's why I call bullshit on that film. And that's what I would want to see.
Right. I think besides the truth of the matter, just presenting this factual account, I think that also speaks to something that, not to bleed into the review, that I feel like that and this, and we were talking about All Eyes on Me, kind of dropped the ball a little bit too. And it's kind of capturing just how volatile the energy was in hip hop at this moment.
Yeah.
And how you had, like, you could actually have an environment where an artist attacks a journalist.
Right.
Like outside of just how horrible and terrible that was. You just think about that. An artist attacked a journalist. And we all just kind of frankly went with it. But I think that's really reflective of again, it was real chaotic in hip hop culture at this moment before it, I would say even now where hip hop is $1 billion business. Like so much that happened during those days, like you couldn't imagine that happening now. Like kind of that transitional period between, it was kind of like street culture, we all kind of passed tapes around. And now, Snoop does stuff with
Martha Stewart.
With Martha Stewart.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would definitely lend itself to that kind of observation for people who weren't there.
Yeah, I think with obviously with the way the genre is now, it's the most streamed, it's the most consumed. That, hip hop and R&B, like in 2021, hip hop and R&B accounted for, I believe, 31% of all musical streams, at least in America, which we know has a direct influence on what is popular, around the world. So yeah, I don't think when, Eric B and Rakim dropped Paid in Full in 1988, I don't think anybody ever saw the genre becoming, what it is now in 2022.
Very true.
but that's a testament to the genre's resiliency, the genre's creativity, and its way to just innovate itself. As it regards to Straight Outta Compton, and as it regards to Dr. Dre, I think the movie was, of course, there's always going to be things skewered towards a certain direction, especially when some people are involved with the project. I was impressed more with the actual NWA element. I'm talking about NWA with Cube. Everything after Cube, that's when things starts to get really, let's just say, I ain't gonna say controversial, but like there starts to be a lot of cooks in the kitchen in terms of the story that was actually being told. So I thought it was good up to then. But yeah, I think Dre understood that he dropped the ball to address a major part of his story, regardless of how much it's tried not to be major over the years, which is why, he probably addressed it in the Defiant Ones, the HBO documentary that came out in 2017. By then, like you said, like you already had a chance to mention it in the movie. There's also some historical discrepancies. Not that take that back. Or is it? No, it is Straight Outta Compton. When Dre gets pulled over for like driving drunk in the car, but Tupac is in the studio recording California Love. I'm like, that actually can't happen because Tupac wasn't on death row when you got pulled over for that. Tupac was actually still, in his sexual assault rape case at that point.
Exactly.
But yes. But yeah, I wish Dre would have addressed it in that film, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me that he didn't either. I thought the NWA portion of Straight Outta Compton was a lot better once, the individual, participants in the group did their own separate thing.
Right. Definitely.
Right.
Farrell Blackwell has a moment that he would like to see traumatized, akin to Elvis Presley going to the White House.
Okay.
He would like to see dramatized the moment when Eazy-E goes to the White House.
It's a surreal moment.
Yeah.
Like it's surreal that Eazy-E went to the White House.
Yeah. Eazy-E.
Right.
Of all the figures in hip hop.
Right. Of all the figures in NWA.
Yeah, for sure. Like I would expect to see Cube at the White House. This is Cube in 1989, 1990.
Right.
Or Eazy-E,
Right.
So.
Right. Yeah. So that's a good one. As I mentioned, I reached out to a couple of friends of the show for moments. I reached out to Arson, the voice of reason of the hip hop bluegrass band Gangsta Grass. This is not necessarily a historical moment, but he would like to see the song Black Steel in the Hour of Chaos by Public Enemy done as a feature film.
Yeah.
That is very man. He need to copyright that now. Somebody will take that idea.
That would
like Chuck D just opens up a letter and it just says in big block letters, "We are suckers."
Yeah, like that you could fill up 120, 140 minutes with that.
Most definitely.
Oh yeah.
Oh yes.
140 minutes with that for sure.
Oh yeah.
Yes. All right. So it is here recorded on the show.
There you go.
So we got you.
I was about to say
we got you covered.
Yeah, that's yours.
All right, we're gonna, and we may have to take that over to Maori Holmes, Black Star Projects. I reached out to her. She suggested the moment in 1995 when Outkast was won and was booed at the Source Awards.
Yeah.
They're representing for the South.
Yeah. Look, I look, talking about moments in Notorious that you don't see, like just I always think of flash points from that period, and I always think of Snoop getting booed, and I forget which award show it was at. It may have been the Source Awards.
It was Source Awards,
and Snoop came up on the mic and was heartbroken. He was like, "Y'all gonna boo Snoop?" And it really was like, wow, this has really gotten out of control because people are booing Snoop. And everybody loves Snoop.
Everybody loves Snoop.
But things had really spiraled at that point.
You chose your side.
Right, where even Snoop was like, y'all gonna boo Snoop?
Now, to be fair, everybody loves Snoop in 2022.
Okay,
Snoop
true.
In 1995.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, like
everybody here.
You know, this is Snoop. Murder was the case. He was still on his murder trial at that point. Not saying that turned like rap fans against him or anything, but yeah, like the Snoop we see with Martha Stewart and doing these commercials where Ryan Sandberg, like cut the stuff off your calendar on your cell phone. This wasn't the Snoop that we knew. Snoop is still 1995 was still Murder Was the Case Snoop.
Yeah,
you know, so he could get a little testy when he wanted to as well.
Most definitely. You know, that brings a question, Justin. What do you think it is about Snoop that has allowed him to become as embraced as he has by the general public?
Honestly, man, the answer is he had a chance to live.
Wow.
You know? He had a chance to live. We're gonna talk a lot about Biggie on this episode. I'm sure we're gonna talk a lot about Tupac as well. But these are his contemporaries. And we always ask the question, like, over the past even over a month, but I would definitely say over the past month and change since the book came out, people have asked me, like, what do you think Biggie Smalls at 50 looks like? And I try to give an answer, and I give an answer, but there's no way to know about how he would have changed over the course, not even just in the course of the 1990s, but the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, the late 2000s, the Barack Obama era of life, the Donald Trump era of life, and like there's no way to know how these people would have grown or anything. But with Snoop, we know how his story is played out because he was from that same era. He was from that same, chaos and vitriol, as y'all were just naming, just among, talking about that era of rap. Like, he survived it all. Like, I tell people all the time, you go look at that Vibe cover, where it says All Eyes on Death Row, where it's Suge, it's Pac, it's Dre, it's Snoop. Like, you can make the argument that, like, Snoop has lived the most.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because you just talk about Dr. Dre and, the things that, he has or has not addressed over the course of his life, and how, basically for the last decade plus, he's kind of been a behind the scenes guy. He's always been a behind the scenes guy, but even more so. Tupac obviously perished in 1996, and Suge, for all we know, Suge is going to spend the rest of his natural born life in prison. It's Snoop who has reinvented himself, not just once, not just twice, but countless times, man. Snoop has lived. Snoop has lived. You may not agree with every decision he's made. I haven't, but I give him credit. There's like, he's had the opportunity to grow into like this loving figure, when at one point he was on the cover of Newsweek talking about a murder.
Right.
Justin, you sound like you're putting together notes and an outline for a new book.
Man, I'm y'all recording this on y'all end, so I'm send this to me so I can go back and transcribe it. Out of the billion things I said, at least one is gonna make sense. So.
We also reached out to good friend of the show, actor Dorian Missick, for his hip hop moment. And this is not necessarily a historic moment, but I think it's an interesting moment. It's the moment where Big Daddy Kane moves into his new apartment. And I read directly from Dorian. I heard Big Daddy Kane tell a story about moving into his first apartment. He said that KRS-One and Miss Melody helped him carry his couch into the crib. Then they sat down with a 6-pack of beer and watched a VHS of The Color Purple.
Yo, that is awesome.
What is that?
That is awesome.
That is the scene in my favorite movie right now.
That seems like a scene after you've had some bad oxtails and you fell asleep and you're having a fever dream.
And you wake up and Miss Melody again.
Right. Like if you told somebody I had a dream that Big Daddy Kane, Miss Melody, and KRS-One sat on the sofa and watched The Color Purple, someone's going to ask you, are you having a stroke?
Are you high? Yeah, that is okay. Have y'all ever seen the show? It used to come on, I believe it was Comedy Central. It was called Tales from the Tour Bus.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. I want to bring that back, but for like strictly like Black stories. And this right here could be a scene in an episode. Like Big Daddy Kane moving into his apartment, Miss Melody, you know what I mean? KRS, like that right there. Because look, I tell you one thing. There was 3 people in that apartment and 1 couch. There was at least 1 unsober person in that trio. I don't know who it is.
Right.
Look, there's gonna be some incredible story to tell about this. So
like you actually want the commentary to The Color Purple.
Yeah, exactly.
From those 3.
Right,
yeah, exactly.
Right.
I don't need the commentary about moving the couch in. I've helped friends move, and I know how miserable that is. Right. Give me what I came here for. Like you said, give me the Color Purple commentary.
Right.
Oh my God, that would be insane.
That is phenomenal.
Yeah. That is so dope. That is really actually what really, and it just hit me. That puts the whole versus with Kane versus KRS-One into a whole nother light.
Right.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
Sure. Because I always envisioned, and I don't know why, but I always envisioned that Kane, of course, knew KRS-One.
Right.
But they like kind of like, you know, like work buddies. Like we do hip hop.
Right.
We both do hip hop.
Like if you would have asked who helped Big Daddy Kane move his couch,
it'd have been Biz.
I was about to say you go right to Biz
or Marley.
Like Marley Marl helped him, right? But you never would have thought, well, KRS-One and Miss Melody
and his wife,
right, helped him.
Yeah. Which points to like indeed sincere friendship,
right?
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
that's so dope.
Well, there you go. Like they were walking by when hey, KRS, what you doing? Nothing. I got you. Want to help me move into my apartment? Sure. Like, no, I know that's not the story.
No, that ain't what happened.
Right.
That ain't what happened.
Not at all. That's cool. All right.
Great suggestion.
I love that. I absolutely love it. Let's see. I'm looking here in the chats to see if anyone. Terrell Spiva says, I want to see that PE Digital Underground tour from the point of view of the roadies like Pac, especially the leg of the tour where leaders of the new school got their group name. That's a good one.
Okay. Yeah.
That's a really
that's a really good one.
Yeah.
Like, there was so many like dope people who were on that tour. Like obviously Tupac. I believe one Queen Latifah on that tour as well. Like
I think yes. Yeah, she was on that tour.
Yeah, it was a great moment. Like you would get these tours like that, where you just get this conglomerate of people who were all kind of like it really was, you know, obviously, maybe not obviously, but you know, we're 90s hip hop guys. So to me, that's the sweet spot. But it really was this sweet spot before things became so huge.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't, you know, like I always say, I saw Goody Mob, the Fugees, and Roots on the same show.
Right.
Like you would never see a show like that.
You'll never see that again.
Right.
Most definitely. You know what? I don't know if this has been a movie. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, Vincent. I would like to see a movie, and maybe it's probably been a documentary, but definitely a movie of the Hilltop Hustlers.
Oh yeah,
the story of Cool C, Steady B, like the rise and fall of them. You know, 3 Times Dope. I think that might be an interesting story,
and it's one a lot of people don't know.
It's one of those stories that's lost.
Like I think Philly hip hop is a blind spot.
Yeah,
for a lot of people as time goes.
Outside of Will.
Yeah,
and like who else?
I mean, the Roots now,
and the Roots.
Yeah.
I was gonna say a lot of people think Philly hip hop starts with like you know Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff, which is obviously an irreplaceable part of that city's like hip hop history. But no, it's a little bit before them too, and they tell you the same thing.
Oh, yo, you could get a story. You could get a movie just out of the life of Lady B.
I was about to say the Tough Crew.
Yeah.
I don't know, but I don't know if you get a movie out of it. I don't know if you get a movie out of Tough Crew.
Yeah. I went too far.
Yeah.
I flew too close to the sun.
You did.
Look, I appreciate the energy though. You could. You look, man, people have made far worse movies. Put it that way.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Point. Truer words have never been spoken. All right. Damon Williams is representing that on that tour. Latifah, MC Light, Naughty by Nature, Tribe, Leaders, Ghetto Boys, Public Enemy.
Look at that lineup.
And Nina asks, is that the tour where Trouble T. Roy died?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, that is a good question.
That's a good question.
I can look it up right now. Well, I don't want to.
Yeah,
but that's a really good question. It might be.
Yeah, I mean certainly it's in that pocket.
Yeah, because T. Roy was after Scott LaRock, right?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, Scott LaRock was like 88, 87.
Oh yeah.
I was about to say maybe even before that, because
I think he like died like almost right when their first album came out.
So Criminal Minded is like what, 87?
Yeah, like
87. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Hey Justin, we gotta circle back before we get the letters, lady. You said Paid in Full was 88. I believe that was 86.
Paid in Full was 86.
Yeah, No Tricks in 86.
No, you're right.
Yeah, No Tricks in 86.
Yeah, Paid in Full was 86.
Yeah,
we'll hear from the corrections department.
I was about to say we don't want to hear from the corrections department. Right.
Yeah, Trouble T died in 1990.
Damn.
So would that have been the tour?
I'm looking at
that. Sounds about right, because that's what we were talking about, like on that Digital Underground PE.
He died in Indianapolis on tour. It doesn't say who.
It doesn't say which tour it was.
Yeah.
We're chiseling home the details. We're getting closer and closer.
We're right in the movie, ladies and gentlemen, right here in real time.
Yeah,
sure.
Here on the Michelle.
And this is actually the type of subject matter where it gets dangerous for the production of the podcast, because we'll just sit here and talk about this for 3 hours.
I know. And no work will get done.
Right, for sure.
And we have to get moving. See, we got a guess, and there's already half an hour.
I know. And you forced me in the position to do it.
That's partially my fault. I'll take blame for it too. So we spread the blame around 3 ways.
All right,
that's love. All right, let's get into our features, and we're going to start off with the top 5.
Top 5. Who's your top 5? My top 5 is. My top 5 is. My top 5 is. My top 5 is.
Top 5, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. I don't know if this is a great one here, Vincent, because I didn't go for funny.
All right, you should probably tell Justin.
I'll tell Justin.
Top 5 in case.
Top 5 is where I come up with a different top 5 list every show that's kind of built from the movie that we are reviewing.
Okay. All right.
Tonight we are reviewing Notorious from 2009. Not to be confused with Notorious by Alfred Hitchcock from 1946.
Yes. Well, I didn't know it was that early.
Yes.
Okay.
Starring Cary Grant and Ingrid Bergman. And actually one of my favorite Alfred Hitchcock films.
A fine film.
It's a classic film. Vincent.
It is.
Yes, it's like and I think Claude Rains is in that movie as well. Oh God, it's such a good movie. It's a thriller.
Yes,
it's so dope. And then it's a great scene of Cary Grant walking up the flight of stairs with a glass of milk, and the way it's shot. And don't get me started. Anyway, so that got me thinking of the top 5 movies that share the same name.
Okay. Okay. I know one that's definitely going to be on there. I don't know what number it's going to be.
Well, we'll see.
Okay.
Okay.
We'll start with number 5.
Number 5
is Gladiator from 1992 and Gladiator from 2000. Like, they didn't even wait a whole 10 years.
Right.
Yeah, I ain't do nothing with this. Yeah, I do nothing with this.
And why does it look like soft gay porn?
Well, it's funny you asked that, Vince. The Gladiator from 1992 is a film starring Cuba Gooding Jr. and James Marshall, famous from Twin
This is
Peaks.
after you did Boys in the Hood.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
Where
Cuba Gooding's agent. I don't know if he.
a pair of teens who find themselves tangled up in the ugly world of underground boxing.
I vaguely remember. I just don't remember the picture being quite so homoerotic.
Well,
It looks like an old school boxing promo picture. Just didn't have all the text on there.
Right.
Like, yeah,
Right.
Gooding Ivan Drago too. This time, you know.
Right.
I know. It's weird, but there you go. But that's the thing. Usually, the span is
Right. It's a little further.
A little further.
Right. Right.
Like
I don't even think presidential administration.
I don't even think like they probably even did a Google search. It's like, yeah, I think we can use it.
Right. We don't. It's all right.
I think we're safe.
It's all right.
I think we're safe. All right, number 4.
Number 4.
The Fast and the Furious from 1955.
Oh.
And the Fast and the Furious from 2001.
I'm not familiar with the 1955.
You talking something right
I was
here.
about to say you teaching right now.
Well, you know, I try and give. All right. Now, The Fast and the Furious from 1955. Both of these films are about cars, but that's about it.
I would hope so.
The 1955 one was about a trucker who, after he is framed for murder, goes on the lam.
Okay.
This was a movie that was filmed in 9 days.
Oh, okay.
With a budget of $50,000, and it stars Jack Elam as the star.
Okay. Are you familiar with this film? Have you seen it?
I've not seen this movie.
I can't say I'm familiar with it, to be honest with you.
Okay. All right.
I've not seen it, but I want. It sounds interesting, right? I mean,
right. Well, I'm trying to figure out what was Fast and what was Furious because you say he was a trucker.
Yeah, but they made it in 9 days, so that's what was fast.
So the film itself was
that's
the fast. I got you.
There you go.
Fast
So
and
he was like
Furious,
driving
right?
a truck real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they're probably furious when they saw that somebody used the name of their movie. They're like,
Almost
Yo.
50 years later.
Right.
like, hold up, that ain't right. That is not right. All right, now, next up, number 3.
Number 3. Is this the one I'm waiting for?
You tell me.
Okay.
This is Crash from 1996 and Crash from 2004.
Oh, here's the thing. I don't even know which one is the Crash that I'm familiar with.
Well, the Crash that most people are familiar with is the 2004 one. That's the one that won the Oscar.
Okay.
That's one with Jamie Foxx, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx and is it Sandra Bullock is in that, I believe.
Yeah, I remember the 2004 one. The 2004 one was good.
Yeah.
It actually is it's weird, but it's actually an interesting film. Excuse me. I stand corrected. It was a 1996 film that won the hold on.
That's the one with Tandy. I mean, I know her name's not Tandy Newton anymore.
But I want to make sure I'm getting this right. 2004 Crash proved controversial for picking up the Best Picture Oscar. That's right. All right, I was right. The 1996 film was by David Cronenberg, and
body horror.
It's based on a J.G. Ballard novel of the same name about people getting their rocks off from car crashes.
Okay.
So these people, and this film, I believe, actually stars James Spader, would actually sometimes purposefully get into car crashes so that they can become aroused and then have sex.
Okay.
At the scene of the accident.
Okay.
Man. Yeah. Never mind. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm gonna stick with the 2004 version on that one.
Right.
He says he's not saying anything, but secretly, Justin is firing up his Amazon Prime.
He's thinking things.
Nah, man. Nigga, I'll go ahead. What's number 2? Nah, I'm not thinking that. If it take that, then no. I'm good.
I mean, look. Anyway, all right. Next.
All right.
Next, moving on.
Moving on.
I take it that's not the movie you were waiting.
That
for.
is not the one I'm waiting for.
Okay. Then number 2 is Deja Vu from 1998.
Man, a lot of these movies happen within the same.
I was about to say they just don't even care. Like we're ordering sushi for lunch. Let's just go ahead, name this thing, keep this thing moving.
They don't even care, man.
I can't say I'm familiar with either one of these.
Yeah, me either.
Oh, yes, you are, Vincent.
I am not.
Yes, you are.
Considering the name, it would seem like I've heard of.
Yeah, you would think you would have a deja vu, but
Right.
No,
or at least one of them.
You absolutely are familiar with one of them, Vincent. You are familiar with the one from 2006, which starred Denzel Washington.
I do remember that one.
Yes. I knew you had to know.
Does it have like a supernatural bent?
It's a bit of a science fiction action film.
Yeah, I do remember that.
Denzel Washington stars as an ATF agent who travels back in time in an attempt to prevent a domestic terrorist attack that takes place in New Orleans and save the woman with whom he will fall in love. The stars Denzel Washington and Paula Patton, and was directed by Tony Scott.
Okay. I don't think I saw that, but that sounds like it kind of slipped through the cracks.
Okay, yeah, because that was before Man on Fire, right? I think Man on Fire was like 07 or something. You don't have to look it up right now, but yeah,
that was right.
I remember Denzel having a role like that.
It may have been either before or right after Man on Fire, because that's when he was in his Tony Scott stream, and he was Tony Scott's go-to guy.
Yeah,
for sure,
most definitely.
Yeah.
Now,
all right.
So I know what number one has got to be what I've been waiting for.
It's number one. Let's see.
It's got to be.
Let's see. Number 1, Bad Boys from 1983.
I cannot believe.
Let me finish this one before
go ahead.
And Bad Boys from 1995, which we recently.
That's a good one. Now this one,
the 1995, we actually just reviewed about a month or so ago. Bad Boys from 1983, starring Sean Penn, is actually a very slept on.
It's
film.
a very good movie.
Yeah.
It's Sean Penn. It's Issa Morales.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Like life and like I think it's like in a boys' correctional institution. Yeah,
but I am actually angry at you that we have sat across this table from each other in one form or another for over half a decade.
Yes.
Talking about Black films.
Yes. And
you do not have the films Sugar Hill on this list.
No, I don't.
He said, no, I don't. You got me, but no, I don't.
Because this is the top 5.
Sugar Hill absolutely should be here before some of these.
Well, okay.
Tell the truth, shame the devil. You just forgot about it.
I forgot about it. Okay. Sugar Hill, which, yes, should be on here. The first Sugar Hill is from the 70s.
Yes.
And is a very slept on, but an actually pretty good blaxploitation, horror.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well,
she
is are you familiar with it, Justin? Are you familiar with the 70s Sugar Hill?
Yeah, the blaxploitation film, right? Yes, I'm not an expert on it, but yes.
Yeah, where she raises zombies to avenge the death of her boyfriend.
Yeah. That's actually okay. Yeah,
he's like, all right, you got me.
You got me. That
and then there's of course the gangster flick,
from 1994
with Wesley Snipes and I believe Michael Wright.
Yeah. Which hasn't
and Teresa Randall.
Oh, that's right, Teresa Randall
and Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson.
Ernie Hudson. Remember Ernie Hudson?
Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, he plays the boxer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I haven't seen that film in forever.
Somehow it slipped through the crack. I can't believe we haven't done Sugar Hill.
I know.
The second one. We've done the first one.
Now y'all got it. Somebody got to write it down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we'll make it so. We'll make it so and do Sugar Hill. I'm sorry.
I forgive you.
Yeah, I have no choice. Did you have? I mean, look. All right, so there you go. That's my top 5.
All right,
that's my top 5.
That was fun though. That was fun.
Ashley Feed is pointing out "Birth of a Nation." That's it.
Birth of a Nation. Birth of a Nation. Yeah.
See.
Yeah. Birth of a Nation.
Again, yes, I forgot about Birth of a Nation. However,
what had happened was
controversial.
Exactly, and I wouldn't want to show too much love to the original. I don't even want to talk about the original Birth of a Nation. So there you go. Farrell Blackwell says that number 1 had to be Vanilla Sky. I'm not familiar of 2.
I didn't know there were 2 Vanilla Skies.
I'm not mad at what number 1 was. You know what I mean? Bad Boys and Bad Boys. I get it. Sean Penn, Martin Lawrence, Will Smith. There's a lot of star power there. But yeah, I do agree about Sugar Hill. But Vanilla Sky, and who am I to say your number 1 shouldn't be Vanilla Sky? But I'm just not familiar with it.
Yeah, Pharaoh. Who we ain't gonna say that. They'd be your number 1. Make your own list.
Yeah, that's his.
Right.
There you go. Get out of here. Later. All right. That was fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I love it when you bring up stuff. Now I want to go and watch it.
I know, right? All right. So now it is time. Oh, it's about to get real on here, Justin.
All right.
It is time for 6 Degrees of D'Urville Martin.
6.
Like you would be surprised what a person can do with just a sense of touch and a sense of sound.
6 Degrees of D'Urville Martin, ladies and gentlemen, where Vincent will attempt to get in 6 movies or less.
6 movies or less.
From 70s blaxploitation superstar,
Juggernaut,
actor,
icon,
D'Urville Martin, to an actor that I pose to him. Justin, feel free to play on your own or with us, and
it's a game of kings.
You can be a lifeline for Vincent.
I believe in ancient Kemet.
Hey.
That is what the kings played with each other. 6 Degrees of D'Urville Martin.
I love it. D'Urville Martin is the blackest name of all time.
Is it not?
If it's not, it's in the top 5 power.
Right.
Top 4 rather. But yes, Vincent, I'm sure you got this on your own, but I'll try to provide as much help as I can.
All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you.
All right, Vincent.
All right.
And I'm going to move me down here so Justin will be up top there. In 6 movies or less, get from D'Urville Martin. to Dean Martin.
Come on, man. Stop. Come on.
Is Dean Martin too easy for you, Vincent?
Look, D'Urville Martin was, of course, in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier, who's in Porgy and Bess with Sammy Davis Jr., who's in Ocean's 11 with Dean Martin. Boom. Okay. Come on, man. How you gonna use somebody in the Rat Pack?
Impressive.
I know. Very good, Vincent.
Yes.
Very good. You've shown me.
Well, I think you just threw me an easy one because you want to move the show along.
I still have another one for you.
All right. One more.
All right. In 6 movies or less, get from D'Urville Martin
to
Natalie Wood.
Okay. Natalie Wood.
Yes.
All right. Now, Natalie Wood is going to be a fun one.
Okay.
Are
you familiar with the films of Natalie Wood?
I'm familiar with the one that I'm going to get to her with. D'Urville Martin, of course, was in Sheba Baby with Pam Grier.
Yes.
Pam Grier is in Jackie Brown.
Yes.
With, of course, Samuel L. Jackson.
Okay.
Samuel L. Jackson is in Django Unchained.
Okay.
With Russ Hamlin.
Fucking Russ Tamblyn.
Russ Tamblyn. You never know when I'm pulling out Russ Tamblyn.
Oh God!
You never know when I'm going to pull out Russ Tamblyn, who of course plays Riff in West Side Story.
Yeah,
with Natalie Wood.
Yeah. Oh.
Yo, that is like one of the most phenomenal things I've ever seen in my life. Wow, that is incredible. Whoa, hold on. You got one more for him? Like, that's incredible. Wow. Vincent, man, if I was at a bar, I'd buy you a drink right now. That's incredible, bro.
All right. I forgot about Russ Tamblyn.
You can never forget about Russ Tamblyn.
Because I always got to remember your three keys. Your three keys are Samuel Jackson,
Russ Tamblyn, and Dick Anthony Williams.
And I got to remember those are your keys.
Mm-hmm.
You knew as soon as he said Sam Jackson, he was like,
dang. I knew exactly where he was going. I knew it. I've been on this road before. All right.
That's incredible.
If I could monetize this, I could make some money from it.
Hey, look, people make money for less. Yeah. So look, we can figure out a way to monetize that for sure.
I'm trying to come up. The only one I could come up with. All right. Fuck it.
Who you got?
If you do this one, I will come over there and kiss your feet.
All right.
That's not really all right. Okay, but the way you going, I wouldn't promise that. But
what you got?
In 6 movies or less.
Dervell Martin.
To Groucho Marx.
See, Groucho Marx is really hard for me because I don't know.
It's not my fault.
Yeah.
Look, you did Shirley Temple before.
I did do Shirley Temple, but Shirley Temple was in movies with black people.
Yeah.
See, Groucho Marx.
There are some black people in these movies.
Are they?
They're not doing anything.
Yeah, I don't know anything Groucho Marx was in besides I actually don't know if I know any movies he was in.
You never watched the Marx Brothers? Any of the Marx Brothers?
Were they movies or were they shorts?
No, they were movies. You're thinking of Lauren Hardy did shorts.
Right.
Marx Brothers.
I got nothing for
Groucho.
You know what? I got nothing for Groucho Marx.
My lips are
I was about to say your lips are safe.
Thank you.
Your lips are safe. Because when did he die?
He dies in the 70s.
How late did he make movies?
His last film is in the 60s. It's a infamously horrible film.
Okay.
Called Skidoo.
Who's he in it with?
Okay, he's in it with Jackie Gleason.
Okay.
And
see, that's it then.
There you go.
There you go, right there, because Dervell Martin is in Guess Who's Coming to Dinner with Sidney Poitier. Sidney Poitier is in Paris Blues with Paul Newman.
Mm-hmm.
Paul Newman is in The Hustler.
There you go.
With Jackie Gleason, who apparently is in this movie with Groucho Marx.
There you go. Well done.
That's still incredible. That's still incredible. Like I don't care if you had to give him a walk up to it, but that you still have to remember Jackie Gleason's filmography. You still have to remember Sidney Poitier's, Paul Newman's, Dervell Martin. I know you got Dervell Martin lined up, but even still, like, hey man, that's one of the most incredible things I've ever seen. Like I've done a lot of interviews and a lot of podcasts, but I ain't never seen anything like that. Like, that's
Justin, if I could monetize it, I'd make some money.
Hey, look, there's still time.
Okay.
And let's talk to the Mr. Anscape and see what we can
I know, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, look, trust me, there's money to be made off of it.
All right. Well, yeah. All right.
That was cool. That was pretty dope.
That was phenomenal.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time.
It is time
for us to get into our review of Notorious.
All right.
But first, it's time for trailer talk.
Little trailer talk.
Now, trailer talk, Justin, is where Vincent and I just talk about whatever the hell we want to talk about. because this part is going to be cut out of the actual podcast and replaced with the trailer for the film.
Okay.
So we could just talk about whatever.
Right. We can't play it now because we get in trouble.
Yeah. I get it. Yeah. Copyright issue. Yeah.
Oh yeah. People keep their lawyer. Like, we're just big enough to get noticed.
Yeah. Send that C&D. Yeah.
Dude.
Or they just drop the whole YouTube file.
So what you want to talk about? What you want to talk about, Justin?
Man, shoot, we can talk about anything. I just saw the NBA Finals in. I just saw question. Well, I think Lynn wanted to talk about that.
Right. I'm not a big sports fan, Justin. So Lynn doesn't have anyone to talk about sports with here. So you and Justin have your sports ball talk.
This is my sports ball.
Yay, our team. Boo their team.
Look. As a lifelong, resident of Philly, I could not have Boston win an NBA championship.
Okay.
Now I like Steph. I mean, like, I don't know anyone who doesn't like Steph Curry.
Seems like a good guy.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, he's hard to dislike.
Yeah. So I was you couldn't help but root for him, but I was especially rooting for him because I needed him to kick Boston's ass.
Okay.
And he primarily was a person that kicked Boston's ass. I loved it. I loved everything.
Yeah, the thing is, like, with the Celtics, like, you look at this team now, they got a black coach, they got an all-black starting five. They pretty much the whole team outside of maybe like 2 or 3 players, and those 2 are the ones that come off the bench. Like, Boston is a black team. Like, and if you go back to like the 60s when Red Auerbach was coaching, like, they still had a lot of black players on their team. It's more so the history of the city of Boston that people cannot, like, take out of their minds, and in a lot of ways they shouldn't.
No.
But yeah, so you're not the only one, Lynn, from Philly, from New York, from LA, from Atlanta, Chicago, whatever the case may be. Like, if there's one team that people can rally around rooting against in the NBA when it comes to the NBA Finals, it's the Boston Celtics, and it really has nothing to do with who's on the current team, because I think a lot of people agree, like, I like a lot of people that are on these current Celtics. It's just the Celtics.
Right? No, I like them all. I like Tatum. I like all of them. Yeah. Am I jealous of the coach? Yes, I am. But that's unfortunately I suffer from a restraining order, so I cannot be within a country of Nia Long. But that's me.
Yeah,
that's a personal thing. I'm just glad they lost. Who's your team? Who I mean, obviously you were rooting for Golden State, but, like, are you a huge basketball fan, Justin?
Yeah, basketball has always been my favorite sport. But the crazy thing is, I've never actually had a basketball team that I'm a fan of. I've always been more of like a player fan. But I just follow the entire game. So I follow every team. I try to keep up with them as much as I can. Obviously growing up in the 90s, man, like every other kid growing up then, I was a Jordan fan. Like, how could you not be a Jordan fan growing up in the 90s? And, I love Penny. I love Shaq. I love AI. All those guys. But yeah, I definitely grew up, worshiping the ground Michael Jordan walked on. You know what I mean? Like, I drank Gatorade and ate Wheaties for breakfast. I was that much of a confused disciple fan, whatever you want to call it.
Speaking of AI, you wrote an interesting article about AI and his infamous press conference about practice.
Yeah.
Like, tell the people what was your perspective on that, because it wasn't just about practice to hear you tell.
Yeah, like that press conference was 35 minutes long, and just in the 20 years since, it's been stripped to maybe like a 45-second, minute at the most soundbite. Allen Iverson talking about, we talking about practice, and he says practice like 22 times within a short, span period. And I understand, like, at some point we've all quoted that at some point in our daily lives. It's just become part of public lexicon. But I feel like the media, I feel like many people within the media, largely of whom were white at that period of time, they took his words and turned it into a soundbite, turned it into a punchline, turned it into something that we can laugh about. When in reality, Allen Iverson was talking about like his season had just ended, but the murder trial for his best friend had just started. Like
Right.
a lot of people don't realize before the 2001-2002 season started, his best friend Rashawn Langford was murdered in Virginia, and he basically had to take that with him the entire season. And the story that I wrote that you mentioned, Lynn, was just, if we're gonna mention that soundbite, which is fine because we've all done it. Even Allen Iverson has cracked jokes about it at times. But like, if we're gonna mention that, we need to also mention the context from which it was birthed. Like, and if we don't do that, then we strip Allen Iverson of his humanity, which has been done countless and countless and countless times over the last 20 years, which is, been the course of, like, in the Black community, so many Black men and Black women, like, you see them as just this one moment and then frame your entire scope of reference around that one moment, when in reality it's like we're all human and we all have emotions and pitfalls and pains that we deal with. And Allen Iverson needs to be given that same grace and agency that so many other people have been given.
We're being quiet for a second. I'm gonna just tell you what Lynn's doing. This is producing in real time. Every now and then something happens during trailer talk where we're thinking, oh, that's good shit right there. We got to put that in the actual show. So Lynn was doing space around that so that when he goes back, he can, I know you.
Hey, look.
Notice I didn't jump in because I said, Lynn's going to want to put that in the actual show. So I don't want to mess up the editing. Yeah, that's really, really insightful and thoughtful. And I'm glad you said that. And as
thank you.
I will, again, I'm not a sports guy, but I live in Philadelphia and I was here during that period. And I always say sometimes my perspective of sports, I think, adds something because I'm not in it.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
So as someone who was here in the midst of the Iverson moment and saw all of that happening, like everything you just said in real time, I'll never forget my cousin, when I first moved here, told me that Philadelphia is a kind of city that they love a fictional white athlete more than they do actual Black athletes. And that's everything you need to know about how race and sports work in this city. And you saw it play out in real time with Allen Iverson. Like everything you just said, like this is a young, I guess we can get to the review too in a moment, but I feel like we don't talk about just how young some of these brothers are.
Right.
Like, and I'm going to repeat this in review. Like, it actually, like, I had forgotten Biggie was only 24.
Yeah.
Like, just how young Allen Iverson was.
Yeah.
And for people to come at him with all that, as you said, it's turned into a joke. I guarantee you here in Philadelphia, I can walk less than 3 blocks and buy a t-shirt that says we talking about practice.
Yeah.
But so much more was going on in that I'm glad you wrote about that.
Yeah, I don't even feel comfortable joking about it. Once I really understood, because I was like 17 when it happened, so I obviously had a good grasp of the world that I was living in at that point. But like, the internet was around in 2002, but it wasn't as accessible as we see it today, where I can just easily Google something. You had to, for the kids listening, you had to ask Jeeves.
Right.
Remember that. But no, like I appreciate that, man. And I'm from Virginia, so there's a part of me that's always gonna be like super protectful of Allen Iverson. It's not saying that you shouldn't tell his story exactly the way that it happened, but for so long, his story was not told the way that it actually happened.
Right. You have to tell it exactly the way it happened.
Exactly. You can't paint your own narrative on it.
Yeah.
You think we'll ever get the Allen Iverson movie?
Man, I hope, bro. I hope. I've been telling people, man, like, I want to write the Allen Iverson autobiography. So if we can get the autobiography, then we can get the movie. You know what I mean? Like
Mhm.
I think an Allen Iverson movie, if done in the right way, or whether it's like an Allen Iverson like miniseries or something, because even that might give you more of a. And we'll talk about this with the movie. It might give you more of a bandwidth to tell a complete story.
Mm-hmm.
But like Allen Iverson is one of the great stories to resonate out of this country in so many ways that it would take up the rest of this episode and maybe the next 2 or 3 to actually get through and like really break down. But I hope he does, because he's more than deserving of it. I just hope he's here to see it, when it comes to fruition.
Have you approached him about the idea? I mean, you got your bona fides.
Yeah, I've got ask and request in, and so I'm waiting to hear back. But I would love to at one day. It would be a true bucket list type moment in a career to say I can do that. But it's I'm still trying to present the idea as much as I can. And once I get the idea to really present it in a room where decisions can be made, yes or no, then
Right.
I'll be ready.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
All right. Well, let's get
Let's
down
get into
to
our
business.
review. Let's get into our review.
All right.
All right. Yes, and all that good Iverson stuff will be on the show.
Oh, I know that.
Shorten some of that top 5 shit. All right.
All right. Tell me when. Notorious is a 2009 American biographical drama about American MC and icon Christopher Wallace, aka the Notorious B.I.G., following his life up until his murder. Directed by George Tillman Jr. and written by Reggie Rock Blythewood and Chio Hadari Coker. The film stars Jamal Woolard as Wallace alongside Angela Bassett as his mother, Derek Luke as Sean Puffy Combs, and Anthony Mackie as Tupac Shakur, with strong turns by Natari Naughton as Lil Kim. As we continue our conversation here in June, Black Music Month, we will begin our conversation about this film, which was chosen by Lynn Webb, special guest Justin Tinsley. Lynn, what do you have to say about Notorious?
Well, I'm going to turn things over to our guest and let Justin speak first. What do you, Justin, have to say about Notorious?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably like a loaded question, because you can take it so many different ways, and I'm sure we're going to take it in at least 120 within this discussion. I think it's a good film. I think it's a definitely, if that was your introduction to the Notorious B.I.G. and really not necessarily his music, because his music had been out long before then. But I think if that was your introduction to the Notorious B.I.G. in 2009 when you saw that film, then hopefully it made you want to learn more about the Notorious B.I.G. because, of course, there's so much more to learn. There's so many parts that were either not included in the movie just for time constructs purposes, or for a litany of other reasons. I remember one of the big criticisms that came out about the movie in real time was just more so about Lil Kim's character and how she was portrayed, and how she was shown in the movie. And I think that's a very, very valid criticism. It's a very, very valid concern. And I look at it like it's always going to be difficult, because I know the people who were involved in the movie, whether it be obviously his mother, Valletta Wallace, and she's going to want it to be portrayed a certain way about her son and how he looks, which is more than understandable. And, Cheo Hadari Coker wrote the incredible original Biggie biography, which was unbelievable. It came out in 2003. You're not going to be able to hammer home every facet of Christopher Wallace's life. And there were a ton of facets that went into that movie, whether it be, you know, his time in North Carolina when he was hustling, or maybe it was his time when he was growing up, even before, you know, he stepped off his stoop and you know, started, you know, moving weight, doing whatever he had to do. You're going to have to fast forward different pockets of his life. And I knew even in 2009, when the movie came out, I was like, okay, well, they didn't really focus on this, but more so focused on that, because I understand it's Hollywood. You got to sell a story at the end of the day. I think it was a great introduction to him, but it shouldn't be the end all be all to who Christopher Wallace was. Good, bad, and indifferent.
Yeah, see, I agree with you too, because I think I came away from this film feeling like, in many ways, this film, which, you know, tries to encompass as much of his life as it can, but of course, like, you know, truncates and massages some things and, you know, lumps some things together. It still very much comes off as like the Cliff Notes version of Biggie Smalls, right? And in doing so, it made me question, okay, is there really an original film here? Because actually what this film is about a young man who comes from a bit of a broken home. You know, you see his mother and his father getting into it, where you learn that Biggie was the product of what I'm like, seems like an affair between the two of them, because like the father is married and not raising the son, who so he's being raised by his mother. He comes from a broken home, and then he inevitably turns to the streets, turns to drugs as a way of trying to make his way in this world. And through the I don't know, it's not necessarily through the drug games that he is introduced to hip hop, because you're shown, at least in this film, that he seems to be always like playing at rapping like kids did at that time. Everybody had like their bars they were writing, and you know, he became a little bit more prolific with it, you know. And then ultimately, because he's got a little money and he's getting a little fame, and his name is starting to ring out in the city at this time in hip hop, then he gets his shot and he runs with it. And it's not a story that we haven't heard before.
Right.
The difference is that this is Christopher Wallace. It is Biggie Smalls. And when Biggie Smalls does hit, he does hit with the force that someone his size is going to hit with, right? He definitely resonates. But I think in changing some of the aspects of his story and watering some things down, I think you lose some of the great things that are in his story. Like the biggest thing is that while his name is ringing out, you don't get a sense of the world of hip hop at this time.
Right.
And I think you really do if you find out that he really gets his shot because of Source magazine, because that them playing him up and putting him in there is why all of a sudden people was like, what? Who's this cat? Like we've never heard of. And that's how his name starts to get rung out, you know, building out on that world of hip hop, the bigger world of hip hop, especially in the heart of New York. I mean, like we just talked about, you could go to a high school and see about 4 or 5 future superstars right there.
Right.
There is this movie like really just shrinks everything down to about these 4 or 5 characters: Biggie, Puff, his mother, who leaves the movie for pieces of a time, his friend, and that's about it. And then Little Kim and C's are running in and out of here a little bit, but really that's it. And I think they just smoothed out too many rough spots from Biggie. Let me pull back on that. I do think that this film, to its credit, does try to show a bit of an evened view of Biggie Smalls.
Mhm.
It doesn't try to paint him over as like, you know, just this misunderstood guy. They show a lot of his foibles right here on the screen. And that is something that a lot of biopics, not just hip hop biopics, don't take the opportunity to do. Some of what they show, I feel, comes off as a little bit gratuitous, but still it is there for you to see. It's not being hidden. And his mother, Valletta Wallace, at least in interviews, spoke of, you know, seeing or reading some of those scenes and seeing some of those scenes played out as scenes that she was not aware of, getting a window into the other side of her son. So I do have to champion the film for that, but I think there's so many other liberties with the story that are taken in watering it down that it just really comes off as very cookie cutter. And for 2009, and for George Tillman, a director who will go on to be fair, to show greater skill in some other of his later films.
I mean, he directed Soul Food.
Yeah,
like this is he's the real deal.
Yeah, he's the real deal.
Yeah.
In this film, I feel that this movie directorially is very paint by the numbers.
Yeah, I think first of all, I agree with both of you. You know, and just the way I love the way both of you kind of shaped your critique. Where Justin, you said it's a nice introduction, which was a nice way of saying this can't be the only text that you use. And and you know, and Lynn, you said cliff notes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is an example of something, Justin, that Lynn and I have talked about over the years. I call it the Berry Gordy principle, where I always say you're never going to hear the actual story of Motown.
Yeah.
While Berry Gordy in Berry Gordy's camp has enough power to control the narrative. And I think what we're seeing now, as we all get a little older, and this music and this culture from this moment is now moving into this period where these principles are trying to put their legacy together. The same type of thing, where I do think there is a bit of controlling the narrative of what happened and how you're going to deal with it. And unfortunately, what happens then is you get what you're talking about, Lynn, where it's a bit cookie cutter. And let me be clear. While I do think in what I'm talking about, there is a 1-to-1 comparison between Berry Gordy and Sean Puffy Combs. In my mind, what is so fascinating about this period, and what was so sad about this period, is that while it's easy to point fingers at Puffy, at Suge Knight, because they were the dudes who were the heads of their respective companies.
Yeah.
Everybody was eaten off of this East Coast, West Coast rivalry. Yeah. Like everybody, like there's a split second in this movie where they show the covers to Vibe. And Justin, you talked about that infamous cover. But in retrospect, whether we're talking about Vibe, whether we're talking about Source, whether we're talking about Double XL, whether we're talking about BET, whether we're talking about MTV, whether we're talking about Rolling Stone, whether we're talking about the respective radio stations, it was in everybody's financial interests to keep this thing going.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in everyone's defense, I don't think anyone thought it would end with people actually dying.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think there have always been rivalries and musicians and groups, and, you know, I'm in this camp and you're in that camp. But to me, what was so unique about this moment, like, this was really almost a moment when the culture went through this adolescence. Like in my mind, this is the moment where so many of us who loved hip hop realized that this was not just, like, it wasn't just music. It wasn't just a pastime. Like, these are real people's lives being affected.
Right.
And that part is I think what could have elevated this from the cookie cutter nature that you're talking about. But unfortunately, I think if you actually talk about that, it's a lot of people's whose hands have a little dirt on it that in 2009, nobody's necessarily trying to put that in a movie.
I mean, it's in a lot of ways, people are still not trying to put it in movies, books, or in documentaries. And it's 2022. It's been a quarter century since the Notorious B.I.G. died. It's been almost 26 years since Tupac died. And everything that's been said on here, I'm not gonna combat against it, because I think it's fair and I think it's accurate in its own ways. But as Vincent said, like, if you want to focus on like that era of Suge Knight and Puffy and Bad Boy and Death Row, that right there is not only its own movie, it's its own mini series. It's its own Marvel universe in a sense.
Amen. Amen.
Like, because I think the thing we got to understand, especially with Biggie, his first album came out in September 1994. He was dead by March 1997. That's 2.5 years. And over that 2.5 years, so much happened. So many players came in and out and in the story and out the story again. And like, there's no way to do this in a movie that's, supposed to be reflective of somebody's entire life over the course of however long the movie is going to be. Like, you're going to, and again, I'm not trying to give this movie any like anything to stand on, like, well, this is why this happened, but this is why this happened. It's when you look back on a movie like Selma that focused on like Martin Luther King's life for like a 2-year span, and they really could focus on, right in his life, which made so much sense. So you're right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that got left out. I mean, you just mentioned the Source magazine and Biggie's demo. Like, yeah, that's what blew him up. But there was also 2 major points of that story that weren't really hammered home in the movie. It's DJ 50 Grand, who just recently passed a few weeks ago. DJ 50 Grand, who was hustling on Bedford and Quincy, who was introduced to Biggie by his friend Damian D-Rock Butler, which is one of Big's closest friends. He introduced Biggie to 50 Grand. 50 Grand produced their original demo the first day that they met. He passed it off to DJ Mr. C, who was Big Daddy Kane's DJ at the time.
Right.
Mr. C basically redid the demo, got it to Matty C at the Source, who eventually got it to Puffy at Uptown, and then the story takes off from there. So, like, you even focus on that, like, that takes up like 45, 50
I'll say that's damn near a movie, what you just said.
Yeah, no, it is.
Right, Biggie's demo.
It is, man. Like that, like Biggie's demo is its own movie, because Biggie's still well within the streets, hustling between Brooklyn and Raleigh, North Carolina at that time, which again, you don't really see a lot of in that movie. But you got to get people to where they're most easily recognizable to a figure, or a figure is most easily recognizable to them, which is his career. But there's so much that happened to Christopher Wallace between the ages of, I would say, 15 and 19, that they just couldn't get in the movie. That it's going to be seen as cookie cutter, or you skimmed over it and it wasn't.
And just talking about unique perspective to separate this from whoever's story, random R&B singer story.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watch the Wu-Tang Clan show,
on
but
Hulu, right?
on Hulu, but I think that's something that they deal with so well, that transitional period in these young men's lives between hustling and committing to music.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you know, in retrospect, it's like, well, of course Biggie should have been an MC. My God, listen to him. But like, how do you sell this to somebody who's a 16, 17-year-old boy?
Yeah.
That this is something you can do.
Yeah. This is something you can
right. Like there's so, you know, talking about again, and this is always my thing about the real story is who controls the story.
Yeah.
I would have loved more time between that moment when Puffy gets fired by Andre Harrell and starts Bad Boy, like that period where he's in his very formative stage.
Yeah.
And like he's trying to sell this dream.
Yeah.
Like it's actually inspirational, but again, we got to get to all this other stuff. We got 2 hours.
So. I mean, y'all mentioned moments in hip hop history that could be turned into his own movie. Puffy getting fired from Uptown, to Vince's credit, can absolutely be a movie. Puffy himself deserves a movie.
That's when is that when he gets the Range Rover?
Probably so.
And like, goes to Andre Harrell's house.
Yeah.
To try to pretend he's not. Yeah.
He's not really hurt. Oh, he's hurt because Andre Harrell was his lifeline. Like, and to his credit, Puffy, he had Uptown popping in his own way. He helped Jodeci get popping. He helped Heavy D take it to a new level. Right. He helped launch Mary J. Like,
who's not in the film at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, she's not in the film because it's not the Bad Boy movie.
Right.
It's not the Puffy movie as much as he is in there. It is still Biggie Smalls' movie. This is the story of Christopher Wallace. So there's a part of me that, I could have seen more from the leaving Uptown to the creation, the formation of Bad Boys. But I feel like a lot of that is a little bit like gets into the weeds of some things.
Sure.
And probably more
That's
Puffy centric. But
I just want to see Craig Mack.
Yeah,
Craig Mack is in here.
Right.
He doesn't say anything.
Right.
Which
is completely opposite of the Craig Mack, who Craig Mack was. Craig Mack always talked. It was Biggie who hardly said anything.
Right. Which I think is a little interesting that he doesn't say anything. But that's neither here or there. I could have seen more of Biggie in that transition.
Yes.
And this is where, to a degree, I think, yes, I'm calling failings on the direction, but I think there's a little bit of failing on the acting in this movie as well. Because while I do think Jamal Woolard is definitely an imposing figure, just like Biggie was. And for the most part, he does a good approximation of Biggie in his tone and in his speaking style and everything like that. I think his shortcomings of an actor are shown where there are moments to show any type of real nuance or depth or another emotion. Those moments are few in this film, but they are there. And I think that's where his small resume, fails him or it shows in this film, because at that time there are scenes which are meant to, at least they read to me, as we are meant to feel the hunger that Biggie is feeling at that moment, because at that moment that Puffy does get fired, Biggie thinks that he's about to make his big move. He's just connected with Puffy. He's has a daughter. He's gonna try and maybe move off the streets or part-time the streets because, you know, this hip-hop thing is about to pop off. And then all of a sudden his legs are cut out from under him with Puffy being fired. And you're meant to see a little bit of desperation in on his part at that time, where he kind of like starts to double down on some of that street stuff. And it doesn't really come off. I don't think the scenes really warrant it, and I also don't think he sells it. I don't think he sells that desperation that at least I felt that we are meant to feel from him in the moments.
I think that's a very fair assessment, because I think there were a lot of emotional crossroads in Biggie's short life that you know, deserved that moment of, you know, dexterity that, you know, maybe, you know, an actor who has a couple of roles under their belt. Again, I think Jamal Woolard did a great job in just portraying Biggie, and just, I mean, he was a rapper at the time too, named Gravy. So
Gravy, right?
Yeah, he understood the nuances that would come with being, you know, an artist, and I think he did well in that. But yeah, there were certain, you know, emotional and like really important moments within the film that, you know, yeah, it's fair to say like, okay, well, he might have could have played that better, especially with, you know, years of hindsight and not being caught up in the hoopla, which was the initial release of the movie, which was a big deal at the time. Yeah, I think that's fair. I like him in there, but your critique, Lynn, I'm not. I don't have any pushback on that at all.
Yeah. We've alluded to it, but I do think it is worth talking about a little bit at length. The depiction of Little Kim,
for sure,
is it is actually shocking and a little distracting. In a film that, as I think all of us agree, in a lot of ways is very cookie cutter. It's very much sort of boilerplate biopic. And it is almost distracting how you have this depiction of Little Kim that is reductive in portraying the relationship, the complicated relationship that she had with Biggie. I hesitate to use the E word, exploitation, but I did think that some of the nudity, some of the sex scenes were a little gratuitous for what for what this is. And when you read about the making of the film and you read Little Kim's reaction to the film, you understand why she had the negative reaction she is. And
she would just to say her reaction was she wasn't feeling it. Not at all.
And just again, speaking to a critique of this film, just as a film, it took me out of the film. Like it really just took me out of the film. You have the first scene, this sort of sex scene, and then it's like 3 scenes or 3 moments where Naturi Naughton is in this state of undress, and it's kind of unnecessary.
Yeah,
so
totally, especially considering how she's introduced to the movie. In the movie, at first she is just a person on the street who sees what's happening, and you're meant to believe that they kind of like catch each other's eye. I don't know. I think you're meant to believe it. And then later they have another run-in on the street. And there's a little bit of a playfulness about the two of them, Biggie and Kim. And it feels, a little genuine, and for her to be portrayed the rest of the way in the movie like she is, and like you said, I do think her nudity is very gratuitous in this film, and the sex scene is wildly gratuitous, and what I also feel is disingenuous about this movie, and you were speaking about Little Kim's reaction. There's an interview with Puffy about the Little Kim portrayal in this film. And this is after him talking about how much he champions the film and he feels like we got it right. And, we were trying to show Chris, all sides of Chris. And, I'm really proud of the film. And then somebody brings up about, Little Kim and her reaction to the film. And then Puffy is like, yeah, well, you really can't pay attention to anything about Little Kim in that film. Like the film is good, but anything about Little Kim, don't pay attention to that. Cause yeah, that's right. She's right. It's totally wrong. I'm like, dude, you literally are talking out of both sides of your mouth right here.
Right.
Know, which we know is an art form that he has mastered.
Right.
And he puts it on display right there. So, and that's why I really felt like that. And don't get me wrong, I like Little Kim. I'm not like I'm not going to cape up for Little Kim, even though I caped up for her in Gangs of Roses. I thought she was one of the best things. But yeah, that really just like felt really, really icky to me.
I think just Lil' Kim as an artist, as a woman, as a whole, just within the grand scheme of hip hop lore, her story has still yet to be fully told. There is a book coming out later this year that I'm super, super excited about. That Lil' Kim she's basically telling her entire story, and I think that is a story that is well overdue. In regards to Notorious, yeah, that is definitely one of the biggest one of the biggest critiques of the movie. Just how Lil' Kim is portrayed as, she's portrayed as basically like the mistress or the sex object. And if you know anything about Biggie and Lil' Kim's relationship, it was highly creative. They created some great songs together. They created some great art. It was highly passionate at times, and it was very highly volatile at others.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And Lil' Kim has done. She hasn't hidden the fact that like her and Big's relationship at times became very physical, and it's just she doesn't demean him for that now. But she was like, I'd be disingenuous to say that wasn't a part of my life with him at certain points. And again, the same way when I was writing my book, like you have to talk about this type of stuff because it actually happened. Like no one can deny that it actually happened, and no one can deny that Lil' Kim is an integral part of the Notorious B.I.G. Christopher Wallace story.
Yes.
And that opens up doors to so many other conversations, whether it be infidelity in marriages, whether it be interpersonal relationships, whether it be emotional violence, physical violence, whatever the case may be. All of these things are entry points into larger conversations. And yes, like if you're Lil' Kim and you're watching this movie, on one hand, you want Biggie to have his story told on a grand fashion, because at the end of the day, she still loves Biggie Smalls. She still loves Christopher Wallace, but you don't want your part in the story to be sacrificed or anything of that nature along the way, because then it paints your own story in an incorrect manner. So like it's difficult to not understand why Kim wouldn't feel a way about her role in the movie.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
I do want to point out two other things in regards to the women in this film. One is the portrayal of Mrs. Wallace, Valletta Wallace, by Angela Bassett, who, we're big fans of Angela Bassett on the Michelle Mission. Goes without saying. I think she lends her name to this film. I don't think this is necessarily her best work. I don't think she's given the best stuff to work with. I do think a different shade of gratuity to me, and maybe gratuity is the wrong word, is while I know that the story of Biggie's mother surviving breast cancer, I think on two separate occasions, if I'm correct, is true. I think the way that it is played up in this film and then pretty much forgotten for the rest of the film, I think is like a little bit gratuitous, trying to pull on your heartstrings to get you to like another way of trying to make you see him in the softer side of Biggie, and yet it then is never really returned to except in like just a throwaway line.
Right.
You know what I mean? And then, like I mentioned, she exits the film for a great bit of time and pretty much just returns on the phone. Now, to hear his actual mother speak, that probably is more along what happened, because he's out there living.
I was about to say living
his life in those 2.5 years that of his skyrocket stardom. But to play like the pull the heartstrings, to play the harp so sharply in that it in the beginning, and then to just ease her off, like everything about her surviving this is done off screen. And like I think that is very disingenuous, and I think that is a detriment to her character, and I think also a detriment to the relationship you're trying to show between him and his mom. You know, you need to see that in the midst of him still being every bit of the Biggie Smalls we all know and love, and to a degree fear, he still is his mother's son. And I think you lose that by not at least returning to that, to see, to put some type of bow on that you showed. And then the other one I want to shout out is that, I think is maybe the best performance in this film, and that's Antonique Smith as Faith Evans. I actually liked her portrayal as Faith. There's a complication to her story as well that probably is not given the true nuance in this film that it deserves, but she is one of the few women that is allowed to have some shade of agency of her own in this film, probably because, you know, I don't think I see all her name in the producers realm, but I gotta think that Miss Valletta Wallace, the mom, maybe trying to,
she's part of the estate.
Yeah. Part of the, I was about to say, I think Faith was involved.
That's right. That's right. That's
very
right.
much so.
Because she's definitely the wife at the time. So, and maybe that plays a part to why she is allowed to have a little bit of agency. That being said, you still got to get it across. You still got to get the character across, the person, the real life person that is Faith Evans up on their screen. And I think that Antonique Smith actually does a good job of that.
You know, Faith is obviously an integral and important part within the story for obvious reasons. But one thing that's always been important to me in retelling, you know, the Biggie stories, making sure like Faith wasn't just his wife. You know what I mean? She was a superstar R&B singer. She was an incredible songwriter in her own right.
Yeah, that's how she made her bones, right?
Exactly. Like she wasn't just somebody who Biggie saw on the street, thought was cute, and was like, "Oh, you're gonna be my wife now." Like, no, she had chops as well. You know, they met at a Bad Boy photo shoot in June of '94. So, like, that's the thing about telling Christopher Wallace's story too. To tell his story accurately, you have to tell the story of so many people within his universe and tell their story as complete as you can. And sometimes it's not going to be the big characters like a Faith Evans or a Valletta Wallace or Puffy. Sometimes it's going to be Donald Harrison, who is the jazz player that grew up in Big's neighborhood, that really turned Big on to how to record music, like how to far stand back from a microphone, or hear the cadence of this trumpet and try to use it for your own flow within hip hop. You know, you can't fit all of that into a movie, but that doesn't mean that it's not as vitally important to the story as the high points or low points that we may know.
I think what everybody is saying is you really needed more. You really needed more. Like I agree with you about the way Ms. Wallace's cancer was treated, but it's only a 2-hour movie. Like, it's only so much.
You say it's only a 2-hour movie, yet there are some scenes that are literal recreation of Biggie videos, like full songs.
But those are iconic moments.
Yeah, but they easily could have been edited down.
Yeah, well, yeah.
They easily could have been edited down. You know? I mean, come on.
But I guess the actual question that we ask all the time is, would we recommend this film? We'll start with our guest.
Are we going to start with Justin?
We'll start with Justin. Justin, would you recommend the film Notorious?
Oh, you're muted. You're muted, Justin.
I don't know how to went on mute.
Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry about that. Yeah, I would recommend it, but no, it cannot be your. If this is it, look, a lot of people consume information in a lot of ways. Maybe it's a podcast, maybe it's a book, maybe it's a movie. So if your initial introduction is like, oh, Biggie Smalls has a movie, let me go watch it. You should go watch it, but don't let it be your only education into who Christopher Wallace actually is, because you will not get the complete picture. And like, if you're doing the true understanding to really get to know who this man was and why his presence, remains so vital within pop culture even to this day, you can't let this movie be the only knowledge that you have of him. I'm not even saying read my own book. Yes, please go read my book. Please go read the book, but don't let that be the only thing either, because while this young man only lived to be 24 years old, he packed so much within the dash between the day he was born and the day he died on his tombstone that you're not going to get it all within one foul swoop. So yes, watch the movie, but don't let it be the only thing you ever come to know, understand, and respect about Christopher Wallace.
Okay. Lynn?
I got to say that I agree with Justin. And until the HBO Max limited series Bad Boys comes out, the actual 5-part docudrama of the story of the label of Bad Boy, which I think will tell the actual tale of Christopher Small. God, I think I have to recommend that you see Notorious.
Okay.
And I didn't think I would land there.
I think I am landing where everyone else is landing. So there you go, 3 for 3 with the same caveats.
Wow, yeah.
This can be your beginning, but it certainly should not be your end.
No,
so
it should not.
There you have it. Justin, thank you so much. The name of your book?
It Was All a Dream. Biggie and the World That Made Him came out last month.
And it's in stores now, ladies and gentlemen. Check it out. Go check out this book, a phenomenal book. Speaking of that, as much as you can tell, I don't want to give away from the movie. How much of the end of the movie, which precludes to Biggie like trying to like maybe turning the page, how much that is true versus Hollywood writing?
I think it was true, because in the last hours of his life, he was calling a bunch of people saying like, yo, when I get back to New York, I want to do this. When we link up again, I want to do this. But it wasn't just necessarily like this epiphany he had within the final hours. One thing that's very important in terms of like how Biggie Smalls saw himself in the world was a car accident he had in September of 1996, roughly around the same time that Tupac was murdered. And, Biggie had to be cut out of the car with the jaws of life and, spending time in rehab for like 2 and 3 months. And it was just him, and he's looking up at the ceiling in the rehab center. It really allowed him to reevaluate his place in the world and how he was treating people and things of that nature. So yeah, he was calling people towards the end of his life, but he was also doing that a lot in the months leading up to it as well.
There you go. And that's another moment that is sadly missing in detail from the film. But check that out. Justin Tinsley, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Justin. Really appreciate you taking the time, brother.
Thank y'all for having me, man. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I'm gonna be thinking about moments in hip hop to film movies around for the rest of the week now. So I'm gonna be hitting y'all up about it.
Well, please do, and feel free when you come up with a movie of your own that you want to review. Let us know. We'll bring you back on, man.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the book. Where else can people see you and read you?
You can read me on anscape.com, formerly known as The Undefeated. You can also catch me on ESPN's Around the Horn at least once a week. I'm a regular panelist on there, and you can follow me on social media. I'm really mainly active on Instagram and Twitter. I haven't really figured out how to use TikTok yet. I got to ask my younger cousins how to do it, but you can find me on TikTok and Instagram. I'm not TikTok, Twitter and Instagram, and it's my name @Justin Tinsley.
All right.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
We're going to let Justin go right now before as we close out the show. Thank you again, Justin. Take care, buddy.
Thank y'all for having me on. I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation.
That's dope,
excellent,
man.
Excellent. Always welcome back.
All right. Justin is out, ladies and gentlemen. Before we tell you what we're going to be reviewing next week here on the Micheaux Mission, I want to invite you to check us out. The website, MicheauxMission.com, 2 Men 1 Podcast, every black film ever made, where you can hit swag and check out all of the cool designs available by way of TeePublic. Email us at MicheauxMission@gmail.com. Leave us a voicemail, 215-867-9666. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @Micheaux Mission. Subscribe on YouTube and Twitch @Micheaux Mission. Give us a 5-star rating and review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That helps people find our show. And the Micheaux Mission is a proud member of The Podglomerate, thepodglomerate.com. They make podcasts work. Next week, as we close out Black Music Month, we shut it down with the Queen of Soul.
I know that's right.
And we don't shut it down with someone playing the Queen of Soul, somebody portraying the Queen of Soul. We shut it down with the actual Queen of Soul from 2018 as we review the documentary Amazing Grace.
Now that's a way to shut it down.
That's the way to shut it down.
That's a way to shut it down. This is a show stopper.
Amen. Next week here on the Micheaux Mission. Until then, he's Vince, I'm Len, and in parting we say,
we'll see you when it's time.